The Green Suiters podcast is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to support our show, get access to special perks, and listen to this episode ad-free, then head over to www.patreon.com/Green Suiters podcast to find out how. If you don't have any bucks to toss our way, it would mean the world to us to have some feedback on how the podcast is doing. You can leave us a review wherever you listen to this episode. Now, on to the show. Hello, boys.
Hi.
Hello.
Excuse me. I had to clear my throat.
How are you guys doing?
I have something I need to talk to you guys about.
Oh, no.
Yep. I quit woodworking today. Sold all my tools.
What are you going to do now?
I've really gotten into underwater basket weaving.
That's what I was going to do.
Sorry.
Nice.
Snooze, you lose.
There can't be two number ones. That's 11.
I'm going to create a massively huge underwater basket weaving. I saw an opportunity there, and I'm going for it. So,
the question is, bathing suit or no bathing suit?
Oh, it's totally naked. Yeah.
Totally naked. Oh,
Yeah.
free balling.
And then people actually like paint portraits
podcast.
of what's
You
happening.
can't say
Yeah.
that,
Anyway.
Sage.
All right, let's move on from this.
Can you guys believe it's February already?
Oh, I can't believe it. Yeah,
It feels like I just got COVID, you know?
I can't wait for Workbench Con. That's gonna be wicked cool.
I know. We're at 22 days until the con.
You know what's great? I was just talking to Nicole about this. I just had a realization that like we have like 4 or 5 4-day weekends in a row.
Wow.
Because I'm going to have like all this spare time, I guess. That is if Leo's not home from daycare, like he is all week this week.
Because you got President's Weekend or President's Day coming up?
There's some like massive snowstorm coming in tonight or whatever. So they just called tomorrow and Friday, like just stay at the house. We'll do telework. So it's really not a 4-day weekend, but I'll be at home. And then next week is Friday through Monday for Valentine's Day. I don't know if you knew this, but the Army gives 4 days for Valentine's Day now.
What?
I don't know why. Yeah, I think it's just the unit that I'm in. I'm not complaining though. I love it.
That's probably it.
But I told my wife, don't expect anything special. Just
Can you imagine like an extra unit
prepare.
Like, hey, Sergeant Major, look, the guys really want to get Valentine's Day off for a 4-day. So
yeah,
you think we can maybe skip the training that we got planned? And
yeah, no, that's not going to happen.
Wow.
And then the following weekend is President's Day. The following weekend, I already have that pass in for Workbench Con that's been there since like August of last year. And then I want to say the weekend after that is Super Bowl weekend, is it not?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So that is another one. At least I know we have the Monday off after Super Bowl. I don't know about the Friday. So anyways, pretty cool. February is a great month.
No, Super Bowl weekend
good,
is in 2 weekends. Isn't it?
I thought it was the very last weekend in February.
Yeah, I thought it was the last weekend of February.
I thought it was like the
Maybe
second or third weekend in February. It's coming right up, Super Bowl.
Yeah, maybe I'm wrong.
Huh.
It's
But
likely that you're wrong.
March 2nd, that Saturday, I'm going to be in Columbus, Ohio for the Arnold. Rick and I are driving over. It's awesome. Powerlifting competition and everything.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. It's amazing. And they got bodybuilding, but we don't care about that. But the powerlifting and fitness stuff is unreal.
Are you gonna be the oil boy?
No, I'm actually the banana
that's
hammock
Rick.
stretch. I'm the stretcher.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
good.
Rick's
So
Rick's
those
the oil
fibers
boy.
nice and loose.
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
those
well, yeah.
engorged men.
We'll probably watch some kettlebells competition.
Just
Kettlebells,
flying
huh?
through the air.
Must be a different kind of
Right.
weightlifting than I'm used to.
Flying right at your face.
Oh
All those
my
kettlebells.
God.
Well, you know what? Speaking of
Uh,
February, ladies and gentlemen, we just got done with our very first, or at least a podcast, the very first giveaway, in
We
which
did.
2 of our loyal followers won themselves 4 clamps. They got 2 6-inch clamps and 2 12-inch clamps from Bessie.
Thank you,
Soon to be
Bessie.
shipped. Yeah, thanks, Bessie,
Thank you, Bessie.
for the free stuff. And so we just wanted to congratulate
Make
Mr.
Metric
Sewell and
great
Mr.
again.
Mancini on your victorious giveaway victory.
Wow.
And we are already full swing into the February giveaway. Somebody sent me an email today with January giveaway. I'm like, it's too late, buddy.
Well, yeah, it's funny because they're like people that go back and listen to it. Imagine
Yeah.
like 6 months from now, someone's like January giveaway 2021 or 2022.
And then it's like, what are we going to do for 2023? You know,
Good point. I'll have to play the odds.
that's right.
But speaking of people who win, Ed Mancini, I think it was fixed. He'll never be allowed to win again, ever.
So he's DQ'd from future.
Yeah, he's a
competitions
tanker.
now?
Hey,
Oh,
Ed
God.
Mancini, that's that mafia guy out of New York City, isn't it?
True statement.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
They made a movie about him called Goodfellas.
God, dirty tanker.
That's him. Yep. He cheated.
His favorite movie is Fury. Brad Pitt's his idol. Anyway, sorry, Ben. What were you going to say?
Why don't you tell the good listeners what the February giveaway is going to be, even though you mentioned it in the previous podcast?
I did. So again, we are doing another monthly giveaway for the month of February with Bessie Tools North America. This month, there will be one winner, and the prize will be a set of uni clamps. And unfortunately, that's all the details that I have. But if you want some uni clamps, then go ahead and enter the February giveaway. It is open to US and Canada, and it is not open to Hawaii and Alaska. Sorry. And to enter, all you have to do is send a email.
Nope. We're not doing emails anymore. If you want to enter
You're right.
this giveaway and all future giveaways, you're going to go to www.greensuitersPodcast.com. Go to the giveaway tab and submit the information field that's on the website, and then you submit it, and then that's it.
But also, speaking of the website, there's a website now, everybody.
That's
and
right.
On it, if you let's break it down, right? So you have multiple ways that you can support what we're doing and show your support for us and all of this really hard work we do. And by hard work we do, I mean me and Sedge drink, and Ben does everything with the podcast. You can become a patron.
It's a tough life.
It is. You guys got it rough, man.
Which becoming a patron is not everybody's, thing.
Forte.
So that's fine. So we'll give you a free option, and that's to leave a review. But apparently leaving reviews is not everybody's thing. So what you could do, and you'll get something out of it, buy some swag from the website, greensuiterspodcast.com. Hashtag not sponsored.
You can be a walking billboard for us.
Yeah. With our little green stick figure.
I was thinking today, I think in the next group call that we do with the patrons, we'll try to solicit some ideas for like t-shirt designs, maybe like sayings that each of us do, or something that that reminds them of the show. I was thinking of having like a saying on the back called or where it says like "Share with us your internet hatred," and then the get bent below it. But it's just an idea. But like I said, that'll be with the group patrons. See some other kind of swag ideas, and then we can do like a giveaway of that or something for whatever design goes up. But I'm really interested in doing merchandise. It's something new for me. There were some growing pains with it on the website today. Special thanks to Mike Leiden, who was going to be one of our first purchasers, but it was more complicated than I anticipated to get our website to connect with the t-shirt service. However, it's all ironed out now. You get it?
Get it ironed out, and you're talking about t-shirts?
Yeah. But
that's hilarious.
Anyways, this is we wanted to kick this off for February. That way, if people wanted to represent, even including us, wanted to represent the podcast at Workbench Con, you should be able to now. So
I'm not wearing one at Workbench Con. I don't even want to be seen with you guys. Make Metric great again. Tony, it's the best t-shirt ever.
That is a really good t-shirt.
Marianne loves her Bent's sweatshirt. It's awesome.
Nice.
You know, I was thinking that we needed to custom order shirts for Nicole, Marianne, and Jennifer. Because remember when I came down during the summer, they were like, "Oh, and we can call ourselves the Stud Finders."
Oh yeah.
Getting like some little T-shirts made for them that says Stud Finder on it, like maybe like on the back or something.
It's great. I mean, all you have to do is just design. That's the cool thing about Teespring is you can design anything you want. It costs you nothing. If people order them, great. If they don't, it is what it is. You know what I mean?
Printful. That's who I used.
Printful.
Or not? Yeah, Printful. Yeah, not Teespring. Screw Teespring.
And then maybe we could get one for Nicole that has like a little mini sustainer, like where her belly is, where the baby is. I think that would be funny.
Or it could just be a little baby stick figure.
Oh, we could
with
do
a
that.
bottle of Jack Daniels.
Now you're talking.
Flipping the bird in the other hand.
Yep, I like it. And smoking a cigarette. It's good parenting.
Yeah,
That's good.
throw a little weed in there and you're all set.
Hey, now, come on.
This is a family podcast. So.
Come
Okay.
on.
Okay.
Jeez.
Jack Daniels is okay, but weed isn't, right? Okay, got it. Okay.
Absolutely.
Got it.
It's not a drug.
Depends on the state. It depends on the state.
Yeah.
Learning the rules. Okay.
But yeah, so we're really excited about the website. We're really excited about the merchandise. Obviously, you can expect the website to get kind of fleshed out in the next month or so. But I wanted to get it up quick again so that we could have merch for everybody. So
It's always good to get it up quick.
Yeah.
there's many different ways that you can support the podcast. Not all of it is monetarily attached, but it certainly helps out. But moving on, Jason. Actually, I don't care. Sedge, what have you been up to this week?
Thank you.
Oh, geez. Well, Big D bought a planer, so I've been teaching him how to use a thickness planer.
What did he get?
We shot some video on it, and it was really cool because there's a lot of nuances to using a thickness planer. A lot of people think there isn't. It's kind of like when people buy a jointer. They just think they slam a board up against the fence and put it through, but there's a lot of finesse to it. And I think there's a lot of finesse on working the thickness planer too. And he was kind of freaking out. Even Chris, when he was shooting the video, was freaking out. He's going, "Oh my God." So Jace, you know that cherry he gave me?
Yep.
Yeah, that they were freaking out because I was running the dirty part through because it had sat there.
Mhm.
And they were freaking out because the grain is outrageous in that cherry.
Yeah.
So it came out really nice. So sometimes you think some of the mundane things in a shop, but when you have somebody new and you're showing them, it's really cool. And then he says, "Well, what are we going to do to do this?" And I grabbed the hand plane, and they went, "Oh, that's what a hand plane's for." And we jointed a couple boards to put up against the fence because I don't have a jointer yet. Emphasis on yet. And I needed a joint. They were just short boards, and we put them up against the fence. So sometimes this is a lot of fun for me because I'm taking somebody who hasn't done any woodworking and showing them the basics. And it's kind of get me jazzed because you really got to think things through when you're showing somebody and teaching them to make sure you incorporate everything. I think if you teach somebody, which I've been doing quite a bit over the years now, it makes you better. It makes you a better woodworker because you can dial things in. I'm telling you guys, you guys are drill instructors. You know all that stuff.
Well, I mean, I was.
I was too, jerk.
Not really.
Oh my God. No, but think about it.
If you weren't a drill sergeant at Hua High,
Oh, shut up.
then you weren't
Shut
a
up.
drill sergeant.
Shut up. Like anybody has a choice over where they get stationed.
I did.
I didn't. Needed anyone else in my class. The only
I
time you could
I
do that
taught
is
them-
if someone else with the same MOS was going to the installation that you wanted to and wanted to go to the installation that you were assigned. That was, they were the
I
same
taught the
rank.
boys at Man College, my friend. Man College, 150. Represent.
God, he's funny.
Such a douchebag.
Cool.
No,
Sorry,
you're right.
Sedge.
You're right, Sedge. And you said how Jason and I were drill sergeants. I remember this happened a lot of times, especially after you were on the trail for a while. You're like instructing your recruits on stuff, and you're like, "Wait, I've already trained you guys how to do this," because all the cycles start to kind of blend together. You know, like, wait, did I already teach you guys this? Like, no. Okay, all right, I'm gonna keep going now. But yeah, it's always great to get back to the basics on anything. You know,
Yep.
it's very surprising how much you forget those things. Not because you're doing things wrong, but your skill set just kind of evolves from that foundation, that baseline, and you kind of learn little small tricks here and there, and the foundations of skills get kind of buried in that. So it's always great to have a fresh set of eyes that doesn't understand like the basics thing and can't ask you questions if you're like saying things in a way that are maybe a little bit too complicated for an inexperienced person to understand. So that sounds like a really rewarding experience for you.
It is, and I learned a lot when I first started at my day job at Festool, because I would be showing somebody something and someone say, "Hey, hang on a second, go back and do that." I go, "What?" And I was just doing something really quick layout, and they go, "No, do that again." And I had to be careful because when I was training on Festool. But man, there was sometimes I'd get off on tangents and I'd have to reel myself in because I was teaching more about woodworking than I was Festool.
Yeah.
And these guys are coming in. So that's a nice offshoot of what I've done with Sedge Tool. I can actually I do some Festool on there, but I also will show I am, as I'm teaching woodworking, which is my passion, to Big D. I can really go into like I'm into sharpening. I'm into hand planes, and I can actually show that. And I've had people comment and go, "Oh, snap. I thought he was just a guy who worked at Festool. I didn't know his background." And remember when Patrick first came over the house, Jason, he kind of freaked out. He goes, "Oh, I thought you were just like a Festool spokesperson. I didn't know you were a woodworker." And I had to explain to him, hey, I had a cabinet shop in Fort Lauderdale, and he kind of went, "Wow, he didn't know I was a hand tool weenie like him."
Not only am I a
and you
trainer,
guys
I'm
fell in
also a
love.
customer.
Also a hand tool weenie. So, no, that's what I've been up to, and I'm just having the time of my life showing Big D, and I always get a kick out of it because Chris goes, "I don't know anything about woodworking," the camera guy, and next thing you know, he's quoting stuff, and I'm like, "Oh, you're not learning anything, huh?" So it's pretty cool. So that's what I've been up to this week.
I watched the MFS video that you released last week.
Oh, thanks. What'd you think?
It was good, man. The MFS I think is the unsung hero of, especially when it comes to routers and template working.
Yep.
It removes the need for a whole bunch of different kind of jigs.
Saves a pallet of MDF is what it does.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And it just kind of sucks that you can still get them. You can get them used or get them from overseas, but
I knew going into that the engagement I was going to get, like, oh man, too bad it was discontinued, but I got what I wanted out of it. People from the UK commented, they messaged me off to the side on Instagram, said, "Man, thanks. I had one sitting around and I wasn't using it. Please, please, please do more videos on it." So I don't want to do them all at once, but I'm going to swing some axe on one, do one with circles, because there's so much to know about it. And I just love using it because, go ahead.
The largest size was what, like a 700?
Yeah, it came in two 400 profiles, two 700 profiles.
Yeah,
but you can buy 1,000 profiles and 2,000 profiles.
Damn.
Yeah,
that's crazy, man.
It's pretty cool. But the thing I want to do is when I swing axe, I have this great axe formula that I learned from a guy out of Michigan, and I used to fumble and bumble to find out where my pivot point was. It was just a haphazard way of swinging it, from point to point. And it's really cool. You just measure the chord, you measure your run of the axe, and it's just a quick formula to pump in there. And I want to show that on the video. It's really cool. So I used to do that in advanced router class. but we don't do that class anymore. So there's just so much to teach,
Mm-hmm.
and
It can be
for
kind of
me
overwhelming
to
sometimes.
this day, and learn. I'm always learning something new. It's I just love woodworking, man, because you find a different way. And the other thing
Yeah.
I'm doing is, and just really quick, this is a big thing. Jason, when I saw you on Saturday last weekend, I said I had a hell of a morning. Man, did I have a hell of a morning. Everything I touched in the shop kind of fell to the side. And um and it was because what I'm doing is I'm going through and I'm trying to find the right step by step to make hand plane totes. And what's funny is I'm learning a lot about some of the tooling I have is a little old, and I need to
Shocking.
update a few things. And it's pretty cool. And then I as soon as I touch something, I realized, oh man, I could do a video on this, because I was changing drill press speeds. And I know a lot of people have a drill press. They think that's only one speed because they think it's a hassle to change the speed on the drill press. It really isn't. I know you have a Nova, which you just press a button and dial it in, but
Basically does everything for me.
I know a lot of people out there that have, belt drives and stuff like that. So it's just a learning experience, and I just keep going through it every time I'm out here in the shop. So I'm excited. That's what I've been up to. What have you been up to, Mr. Ben?
Well, Patrick and Michelle were here over the weekend, and that was awesome, obviously. Right after they left, I fully intended on going out into the shop and getting started on that desk. And I went out there, came back inside a couple minutes later for something. And Nicole's like, hey, why have we not considered this house? And it was a house that I had saved. So we went and looked at it on Sunday evening at like 5. And it was in Brownsburg.
Oh,
yeah. The school district was amazing. Like all the schools were 10 out of 10, and it was on an acre. It had a 43 by 25 pole barn on the property that had like 20 or more foot ceilings. It was already insulated, already had heat, cooling. It already had its own electrical setup. The guy was a mechanic, liked to work on cars. There was a car lift inside of it.
Oh, snap.
Yeah. And we didn't make an offer, which as hard as it was for me to not, I mean, that shop, it'd have been bigger than anything I would have built, more than likely. And it would have been everything I needed. It even had like a partitioned off room that had a flat top on it. And the guy used it for storage. And there was a staircase to the side of it. And then there was still storage on the right-hand side. But you walk into this little walled off room, and all I could think about is like, this would be an awesome like hand tool bench work area. And then right next to that was another walled off room that had a slop sink. I mean, it literally had everything. I would have had to do lighting, and I would have wanted to do the epoxy floors. And, but other than that, like it was move-in ready, like good to go. But the house, it just wasn't, the master bedroom was fine. But and then there was 2, like kids' rooms or whatever that were way bigger than our rooms in our house. Like they were like the size of our current master bedroom.
Wow.
Like 2 rooms. It said it was a 4-bedroom. So really the deal breaker for us was that additional bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
They like put double glass doors leading into it, but there was also another door from when it was a regular bedroom, and it was super tiny. So we wouldn't have been able to use it for anything. And then, and it had a 3-car garage, way oversized 3-car garage.
Wow.
With one of the bays, the single door was like I could have fit like a 22-foot bass boat backed up fully into that garage if I wanted. I mean, it checked a lot of blocks, but the house just wasn't something that we wanted to commit to. So it said it was bigger than our house, but it definitely was not. Like we don't know where the square footage was, if it was, but
What size property did it sit on?
an acre.
An acre. Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. So nice back. I don't know. It kind of sucks because I actually thought that was going to be the one, and there's some other weird stuff that happened while we were there, and they had like video cameras and stuff, and they left out an accepted offer that they had that was already had a contingency, but they purposely left it out. It was very clear. God. And then we wanted to go look at it, and they're like, "Oh, you have to wait till 5 because we're moving. We're actually moving right now." No, they weren't. They weren't moving anything out of the house. It looked like they weren't even planning on. It was a total weird scenario. And then we ended up finding a hidden camera in the house. Leo did, because he was playing with a little truck. So they were watching everything that happened. It was just really weird. So
they had a hidden camera watching you walk around the house.
Oh yeah, I guarantee you they were listening in. Guaranteed. I think the husband was in the military though, because his one of the kids' rooms was all military themed, and there was a little ACU briefcase thing that had staff sergeant rank on it. So I don't know if he might be guard or something. He wouldn't be active up there, yeah, unless he was a recruiter. But that was that. And then this week, I was home on Monday and then home again today because Leo's out of daycare and Nicole was working in office. So, I mean, really nothing significant. Hopefully over the next few days, I'm going to get a chance to get working on this desk. Oh, I have been going crazy with SketchUp.
SketchUp.
Yeah, I've seen that. That's pretty cool.
Getting pretty zippy at it.
Yeah, I've gotten a lot faster. I had my patron call, which I opened up to everybody because I did a giveaway, because once I hit a certain goal over there on Patreon, I said that I was going to do a giveaway, and Mike Leiden actually won.
Cool.
I'm getting him a Festool ETS 125 sander. So
that's awesome.
Oh, wow.
But that call was extremely productive. It was probably the most fun one that I've done so far. And that stuff that Ben, I talked to you and Sedge about it, which I'm still kind of keeping to myself. But the first test is underway, and I've already got most of it done. But I've just been messing with SketchUp. I mean, I'm obsessed with it. I've been modeling all kinds of different. I modeled Leo's bed. The next thing today I spent time trying to learn how to use layers and scenes. Tomorrow I'll start working on trying to put the bed into what I would like to see as a plan. And it's just really fun. It's cool. I'm glad that I finally decided to do it. I wish I wouldn't have waited so damn long. I'll tell you that.
What do you think it was that made you wait that long?
Because I didn't want to dedicate time to it. It's the unknown, It's kind of like the CNC.
So you're just like being a bitch pretty much.
Right.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah. It was being a Cab Scout. You're right.
Shut up.
I don't know. It was one of those things that was always in the back of my mind, but I'm always like, oh man, I don't have time to be doing this stuff. And then I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to start dedicating a couple, because that was like one of my New Year's resolutions, as much as I hate to say that, but it was like, focus on something a little bit each day, even if it's not like the priority, focus on it a little bit, so here and there, I downloaded Parallels on my laptop so I could run VCarve on my Windows or on my Mac. So, some nights I'll get on there and I'll just mess with designs and try to figure it out. Other nights I'm on SketchUp. Other nights I'm, tinkering with my website, whatever it is, just something, even if it's just for an hour. Mm-hmm. And it's been going really well. I feel like it's kind of reinvigorating, some of my passion about certain things.
Yeah. I watched a video recently about scheduling. I think it was actually a Jordan Peterson video. So for those who don't know, he's a now famous Canadian psychologist professor. But anyways, he said in this video, don't put yourself in a prison. Like if you're able to make your own schedule, don't be a dictator with your schedule. Like treat your schedule as if you're doing it for an employee. How would you do it for them? And probably the coolest part of it and the most value I got out of that video was schedule the day that you want to have. Like when you think about what you're going to do tomorrow or the next week, what are the things that you are going to want to get done? And so I started doing that. I wake up in the morning and like I have certain routine things that I do for like the podcast as far as editing and making content and stuff like that. But everything else it's kind of free form with the exception of school and like kids and stuff. But I write down, okay, these are the things that I would love to get done today. Not like I feel pressured to do it. It's just like if I can get some of these things done today, I'm going to consider it a very productive day. And for me, it kind of removes the stress and the pressure out of it. And kind of because I am typically very hard on myself when it comes to sticking to a schedule or trying to get things done, and I can get very focused on doing these specific things and just kind of miss a whole bunch of other stuff. But I'm really glad to hear that that you've jumped into it and you're getting a lot out of it and you're actually being really productive with it. And
I think
so
a big part of it is obviously the plan that I have.
yeah.
Like that is
now you've
really
got a purpose or a reason to do it.
That is really exciting me. And then also, the built-in, I did a post on Instagram the other day on that built-in that we want to do. And I still have some small modifications and tweaks I think I'm going to do to it, but just doing that, like, and being able to see it in that space, it's such a great tool.
Where in the house is that?
In that wall on the left when you walk in that has that indentation in the wall, where the credenza is.
It's right behind the dining room table.
Oh, okay, right there.
Yeah, the credenza is going to move.
Okay,
And I'm
where the
build that
credenza
in
is.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, that's nice. That's a good spot.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of unused space, and we want more storage. And this is going to be, and Leo, the whole bottom, the majority of the bottom is for those like IKEA bins that we put toys in. That's what the majority of the bottom is going to be for, because his toys stay in the dang living room anyway. So it's just like if we can just put them back in there, it'll be great.
It looked like Patrick was having more fun than he was with the toys.
Are you surprised?
Did you guys have a little serving of purple crayons, like in a little serving dish for him in the bedroom?
Yeah, he did. It's
Patrick,
funny. He actually,
in case you want some snacks, we left you some purple crayons.
yeah, he did color. I think it was a Paw Patrol coloring book or something that he got, and like Leo was like, "Here, color," and Patrick's sitting there by himself, like on the couch, scribbling all outside the lines. Not surprised.
Not surprised at all.
No discipline from that one.
No
Anyway.
Marines.
So yeah, hopefully in the next few days I'll be back out in the shop building some stuff. So
It's awesome, man.
Cool.
Ben,
Yes.
not that anybody listening to this podcast cares, but what have you been up to?
Oh, everybody cares. Trust me.
All right, I'm going to take a nap.
Well, today was a fantastic day because I rode my motorcycle today. It was just warm enough. It was 40 degrees today, 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Just warm enough to ride a motorcycle without being terribly uncomfortable. But I will tell you this. I had quite a time getting my slick-tired motorcycle out of my snow-covered yard. That was a challenge. Getting it in and out of my basement was a challenge. It took me about 30 minutes to get out of my yard. And I had to have somebody passing by to help me get it out of my yard. Anyways, got to ride my motorcycle today. It's been probably 2.5 months since I've ridden it. So I was really jonesing to do that. And then last week, I think Thursday, I finished my third Sis Bench, and it came together really well. Pumped with it. All my Sis standers, most of them, are all stored away now. My work area it's so open now. I can't even get over how much space I have available now. I think in a couple months I'll probably build a fourth one. But I filmed that for my YouTube. I'm currently in the process of editing it right now. Hopefully I'll be done with that tomorrow. And then I I don't know why I do this, but with my laser cutter, I've always had a fascination with making my own shipping boxes. Because
I
right
saw that
now,
in your stories.
whenever I ship stuff, well, yeah, I have to like go to Walmart, find a box. Hopefully, they have the size that I need because it's already have it pre-saved on my Etsy. So save, find the box with the right dimensions, get bubble wrap, you know, get shipping tape, all this. Like I just have to get all this other stuff, and it's kind of a pain. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna design my own shipping box because I'm tired of depending on Walmart to allow me to ship things on time. And so I got on my laser cutter, got on Adobe Illustrator, and I designed my own shipping box for a couple of my items. So now it's less shipping tape. I don't need bubble wrap. It's less cardboard. I can order the cardboard flats offline. They get delivered the next day.
So
And that's it.
what's the process? You put them on a laser cutter and it
Yes.
cuts out the tabs and everything and you fold it all together?
Yep. Yep. It's all one piece.
That's so cool, man.
Yeah. Took me a couple of iterations to figure everything out.
That's
But yeah,
so
it's
cool.
yeah, my laser cutter, it's got a pass through feature, so you can pass materials through the cutter, and it's got two cameras on it. So it'll do like the first pass, and then it'll say, okay, move your materials 8 inches, and so you pull it out 8 inches. The cameras take a whole bunch of pictures of it. It lines everything up for you, does the next set of cuts, and it just does that until the entire shape is cut out. So, and it's all automated. You don't have to, you literally move the material and you hit a button. That's it. So it's a
8
really
inches
cool
at a
feature.
time?
Yeah, I mean it's roughly. It doesn't have to be exact, but it just says move your material about 8 inches. So you pull it through a little bit. As long as the cuts are still in view of the camera, the previous cuts are still in view of the camera, even like a little bit, it'll just look at those, look at the design, what's left over, and it'll align it for you. So
That's so cool, man.
yeah, it's really cool.
How long does it take for the machine to cut out something like that?
For the whole box, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes, if
That's
that.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
save you time going down,
Yeah.
schlepping and getting in the car, go
Yeah,
and get one.
and it's very it doesn't require a lot of input from me, especially now because it's everything's loaded up. It's the printer, it's cloud based, so I don't have to have my laptop down there to do it. I just pull my phone out, hit print, and it just does it for me.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, obviously I got to load up the material and everything, but it's
How have your sales been doing?
good actually. I sold out of my stools again because I usually just do it 3 at a time because that's how many I build at once. And then once I've got them, well, not pre-built, but I've got them all cut out and everything. Oh, that's another thing I did. I get it all cut out first, and then I post it on the website that I have 3 more in stock. And so I have the bodies ready to go. If they want engraving, I can engrave the top real quick, and then I slap it all together, glue it, and then I pre-finish all my materials too, so I only have to do one coat of finish after it's been glued up. So the turnaround is really, really quick for
Wow.
those stools, at least whenever I post them, because I've already got them pre-made. But that was the other thing I did is I made a jig for the MFT to do complementary angles. So complementary angles are angles that are more than 180 degrees, if I'm thinking that right, or more than 90 degrees. So the stool that I make, one of the bevels has to be at 38.5 degrees. The other one is at 52.5 degrees. Well, the track saw only goes to 45 degrees. So in order to get that additional degrees beyond 45, you have to keep the piece vertical, and then cut it at a 90-degree angle from the saw blade. And so that's what gives it its steeper angle on it. So I made a jig this weekend or last weekend to that it's all pre-butted with the measurements of all my pieces. So I rip my sheets from the plywood, I cut them to length on the miter saw, and then I go to this little jig and I cut all my bevels. And it turned what used to be, I don't know, it would probably take me probably 45 minutes a stool to cut everything, rip, cross cut, bevel cut. Now I can do it in about 10 minutes, everything in about 10 minutes. Yeah. So, it kind of just goes back to what you always say about jigs, Sedge, is that jigs save time. That's literally what they do.
Yep.
And so I told myself that this was something that I needed to do a long time ago. Pretty much every time I felt rushed to make one of these orders, because that's how it usually is. I'm in the middle of writing some paper and an order comes in or whatever, and I've got 50,000 other things I've got to do. Now it's literally everything is done for me. I have flag stops that I leave on my miter saw that are set for the exact dimensions that I need to cross cut everything. Now I've got this jig that I literally just put the wood in it. I don't have to think about anything. I don't have to measure anything. I don't have to position nothing. I just throw it in, clamp it, cut it, and then domino it, and then it's good.
Yeah.
So I've really, apart from making this an industrial process, I've made this as quick as I can possibly make it, the process for making these things. So, but it's been going really well. I sold one of the Sis shelves. I've sold one of those. Eric Barber is actually the one that ordered it. One of our patrons. But stools are getting sold constantly. I just shipped 2 of them today. So
let me ask you a question on Etsy, because I put the plans up on Etsy just as another place to have them in the hopes that it will generate more sales, right? I don't have to do anything.
That helicopter payment's starting to hurt, huh, buddy?
No. I sold one like an hour after I posted the plans to Etsy. And then I sold one more about 4 or 5 days later. But I am getting a ton of people that are saving the plans. Like they're saving the router bit cabinet for some reason. That one's crazy over on Etsy.
That's weird.
The toy chest, all that stuff. So I was going to ask you, have you been getting that a lot? Like a lot of saves on your items?
Are you talking about saves or favoriting?
Favoriting. Same thing. Principle, I would think. But yeah, favoriting.
Yeah, it is. I do actually in the beginning, I did get quite a lot of those favorites for my stools. I would say that it's probably like a 10-to-1 ratio. For every 10 favorites, I'll sell 1 stool. But I think it's people just they're in the process of searching. They're not in a buying mindset yet, and they just click favorite, thinking that they'll come back to it because they're doing like comparative analysis. But
see, I thought part of it was because how you can do you can like target people if they put it in their cart, if they favorite it, if they do all this stuff where they'll like get an email that says, hey, get 10% off this thing that you favorited or whatever. Anyways, I did that just because I don't know anything about Etsy, but I did that just to see. It has not panned out one time.
So you're talking about retargeting?
Yeah. I thought maybe that's why people do it, because they know that if they favorite something, it's likely that the store will re-engage them with some sort of discount so they can then get it cheaper. But that has not happened yet.
Yeah. I doubt most people are even aware that that's how it works. But no, I haven't done any of that. I've done zero marketing, like the actual tool that's on Etsy. I've done none of that. I've literally just posted it and then that's it. I may have tried to focus on a little bit of the SEO for like the listing, like using specific words and targeting targeting keywords and stuff like that. But I've done very little to Etsy at this point. When I had Valor Made Designs, I had an Etsy store as well. And I spent money on advertising. And all that is Etsy just prioritizes your post at the very top of the search. Very similar to what Google does. if you go on Etsy and you look at the very top results, it all says "add" in the top
Mhm.
left corner of the picture. That's all it does, and it definitely generated a lot of sales for me. But I was also, spending a lot of money on advertising. So, it's right now, without doing any of that stuff, it's at a pace that's good for me. You know, my
Right.
my items they're priced pretty high comparatively. Um, and I'm sure that I could probably price them even higher and they would still sell, but I feel that it's pretty fair for what it is right now.
What is the price on your stool? If you're comfortable sharing it, even though I can just go on
70, they're
Etsy.
75.
Okay.
75 plus shipping.
Hmm.
And
Send me
they're
one. I want to see how
completely.
sturdy it is.
Oh, I can
I'll
I
do.
can stand on it and hold all of my kids, and it'll hold up.
I will do a YouTube video testing the strength of Ben Marshall's famous stool.
Go ahead, knock
I'm going
yourself
to ruin
out,
your
buddy.
business.
You'll be pleasantly surprised how strong they are. I
Yeah.
think I could
Nothing
definitely
like
ask. Huh?
nothing like a good strong stool.
Yeah.
Just pushes it
Have,
right out.
have one every morning.
You betcha.
Nice, hard, stiff.
Constitutional.
Constitution.
I have ideas for making more, to use Patrick's words, bespoke stool.
Bespoke.
But
He
bespoke.
used it. That's trademarked. You can't use that.
Yeah, man.
Oh.
Bespoke.
We're going to visit Patrick and Michelle
Oh.
President's Day weekend, actually.
No, are you?
Yeah.
Well, that's just special.
It is.
What do you guys say we get into the topic? Knock this puppy out.
Fine.
What's the topic?
Today's topic, ladies and gentlemen, is one that I have seen quite a bit of on the interwebs, especially in January. It seemed to be the topic that most Facebook and Instagram groups were talking about, and that is sanding. So I saw a lot of painful posts on some of the Facebook groups that I kind of meandered through. One of the ones that kind of spurred the topic, or me wanting to talk about this topic, was this guy posted. He was like, I love woodworking, but I hate spending hours sanding. And so I was like, well, unless you're like in a production line, you shouldn't be sanding for hours. You shouldn't have to sand long at all, unless you're like getting a tree out of the ground and then putting a sander on it. So I thought that we would just kind of bring our top three sanding tips for anybody at any level. I think is applicable, so that you're not spending hours sanding, which you should never. If you're spending hours sanding, you're doing something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll kick it off, and this is a really cool one that I hadn't really thought of until recently, and it concerns with end grains. So those of you that like to either stain or just naturally finish your wood, that whenever you apply anything to an end grain, it's gonna that end grain is gonna be a darker tone than the edge and face grains are, just because it's going to absorb more of the material. And so a way that you can try to get the color to be similar to the edge and face grain is whatever you're finishing sanding at, whatever your raw finishing sand grit is, you want to go above that and then hit the end grains with it. And what that's going to do, that's going to burnish the end grains a little bit, and it's going to reduce the amount of absorption that the fibers take on whatever that finish is. And so it's still maybe a little bit darker, or a little bit, a tone darker than the face and edge grain, but it's not going to be as much. So a really great application for this is if you're making raised panels for a cabinet door, and you're going to be finishing it naturally, or you're going to be staining it. You take a higher grit sandpaper than you did on the face and edge grains. You rub it along where that raised panel is for the end grain, and you burnish those end grains a little bit. And you're not gonna have this two-tone panel where the end grains are, and obviously the same thing for if you're going to do like some breadboard ends or an end of a tabletop, and you're not going to cap it on the ends or anything. So that's my first tip for sanding. Sedge, what do you got?
I guess I could talk for hours just on sanding. What you said earlier, Ben, about that guy sanding for hours. And I'll start it with this because it was the number one question I would get when people would come into a training and we would start to sand the farm tables. And I go, okay, hey, what grit would you start to level this? And most everybody would say 80 grit. And I go, would you like to? Oh, you like to sand, don't you? And they go, what do you mean? And I go, well, you always have to analyze, what are you trying to accomplish? Okay. And what happened was people say, it was like, what grit do you start at? What grit do you start at? And I go, well, what are you sanding? Are you sanding plywood to remove marks or galling or whatever? And they go, yeah. I go, well, it's plywood is surface sanded the majority of the time at 120 from the manufacturer. So I usually start at 120 to sand plywood. I would never start with 80 grit. And they go, huh? Because, and then when we go to the farm table, people go 80 grit. I go, oh boy, you're going to be there a long time. Grit, if you look at grit range is a time value. So if someone started at 80 to level those boards that came together, okay, or knock out undulations on those maple tops, you'd be there forever. 40 grit is where we started at. And then they would walk away and go, oh, because what you're doing is you've accomplished the leveling quicker with 40 grit. But they go, it's a deeper scratch pattern. I go, that's why you go to 60. Then you go to 80, then you go to 120, and then you go to 150. And and in saying that, there's a lot of people will skip grit ranges. Okay, they'll start maybe say 80 and go to 180. And I just look at them and go, man, you're wasting your time. Grit range is a time value. It takes longer to get those 80 grit scratch patterns out with 180 than it does with 120. And people don't realize that because you spend less time on 120 and then you go to 150 and then 180. And then I would always ask them about grit range. Hey, what do you sand bare wood to? And they look at me and go, oh, I go 220 and 320. I go, God, I like making money and they go, huh? And I go, you never sand above 180 because you lose claw or you lose adhesion point of your finish. And they go, what? I go, it's ludicrous to sand above 180. And I hear people say, oh, you can sand and remove blotchiness. I've tried that. That's a bunch of hoo-ha. Okay, on cherry and pine. It's a bunch of hoo-ha.
There's so much that's out of your control when it comes to blotchiness.
Oh my God, it's easy. To remove blotchiness is you mix seal coat, Zinza seal coat, which is shellac, and you cut it 50 with denatured alcohol. You flood the piece, and then you sand at 180, and you get a lot of the blotchiness to disappear. And I would scratch my head on this, and then I'd hear people. I've had people come up to me, and I stopped arguing after a while and sanding above 180 because people go, oh, I sanded 220. I go, dude, I'll take your money. Just I would say internally, shut your mouth and take that guy's money. He's just wasting his time. And then people complain, oh man, my finish isn't adhering well, or I'm not getting the penetration because you've burnished the cell. And people go, oh, but it takes time. I had a guy who came to class once. He says, I sand, and he had people writing because and I was like, okay. I exactly what I just said. I said, oh yeah, you're wasting your money. He sanded to 600 grit. Oh, and then, and I go, waste. I said, it's a waste of money, John. And he came back to class probably about 6 months later, goes, okay, I know what you're saying, but he goes, I went down to 220. Okay, I just can't go to
That's
180.
as low as I can go. That's as low as I can go.
But he understood he was wasting his time because what people were feeling was the finish. Everybody loves that 220 smoothness, but that if you sand to 180 and then finish, that's the same finish on top. I don't get it, but I just so how would I say that? Analyze what you're sanding. Okay. Start with the lowest grit possible to save time. Okay. Don't skip grits. And for bare wood, I wouldn't sand above 180.
Yeah. Man, you just gave
okay.
4.
And what no, that's all about grits and sandpaper. But what the thing is I people used to look at me cross-eyed, and then I have professional finishers come up to me and go, man, finally somebody who's talking about it. And then there was an article in, I think, Fine Woodworking that someone showed me once in class and said, hey, they're saying don't sand above 180. I go, oh, duh. So
you don't say.
What did you do?
Oh, wait a minute. I bought a t-shirt.
Yeah. Hey, Ben, you need to make that a sound bite. You need to get one of those like switchboards and stuff. When somebody says something, you can just hit that. Duh.
Sorry. It was a hot topic about 4 or 5 years ago. Hey, what grit do I start at?
Well, and that's what that's most of the people in some of these groups do, is they're like, I don't know what took so long. I started sanding at 220, and it's just like,
this sander sucks.
Yeah,
it doesn't.
They did it at 220, and they're doing it with gator paper. Like,
Yeah, quality of paper is a whole nother topic.
Yeah.
Hey, Sedge, do you mind if I cover the vac one, since you have so many?
Yeah, go for it, man.
Otherwise I'm only gonna have one thing to say, but
because you don't know a whole lot. That's fine.
No, it's because we're all going to say the same thing. But
no, I know. I'm just joking.
My invest in a variable speed vacuum or dust collector or dust extractor. Excuse me. Invest in one of those, and I won't cover like all the benefits because I know, Sedge, that's going to be one of the other things that you discuss. But having the ability to dial down the suction is so useful and helpful. And I'm like anybody else. Like when I first started, matter of fact, I posted a picture today on Instagram. 5 years ago today, I built the first piece of furniture, or I built the piece of furniture for somebody that led me to start doing custom work. And when you look at that and you look at it closely, you can see all kinds of things just in the picture that were screwed up, things that I didn't know early on. But back then when I sanded, I was one of those people. I was using, what did I have? A DeWalt 5-inch random orbital sander, the one that everybody kind of starts out with. I was using, Diablo or Gator paper from Lowe's and Home Depot. I was pressing down real hard. 9 times out of 10, I didn't have a vacuum hooked up to it. Then I finally hooked a vacuum up to it. But I was using like a shop vac connected to it. And I was getting squirrel marks like a son of a you-know-what, right? Yeah. Like just everywhere. And the minute I would put that stain on, because I stained everything back then because I was using construction grade lumber, it would just stick out like a sore thumb. When I made the switch and got, we'll just say a Festool sander, the ETS 125, that was the first thing that I bought. When I bought that, I bought a MIDI, and sanding with that was such a huge difference. And I immediately noticed a difference because I was able to turn the suction on the vacuum down. So having the ability to do that is really great. So that would definitely be something that I would invest in, because it's going to help you with a lot of other things that I know Sedge and Ben are probably going to cover.
I'm just going to pause it real quick because this made me think of something. Did you guys watch my stories last Friday about whenever I was...
When you were naked?
No.
Oh.
Those are just private, Jason.
Oh, sorry.
So, Sedge, did you happen to see him where I talked about my vacuum?
I did.
Oh, yeah. We talked about it last week, too. Yeah. Remember when he had dust everywhere?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. No, this is totally unrelated.
Oh.
So
I didn't see your stories. I'm sorry.
what kind of friend are you?
Yeah,
I
sure.
We're supposed to be podcast mates.
I suck.
And you don't watch my stories? No, I'm just playing.
I don't watch
So-
Jason's stories either.
So I had
No.
to go. Well, I went to Jennifer's over the weekend, and I had to finish. I had to route a groove in the bottom of her door to accept the little kicker plate or whatever it is for her sliding door. And so I brought my MFK. I bought the parallel guide for it, or the edge guide for it, and I brought my CT15 with me. And so the CT15, it's been hooked up to my Capex for months now, since I bought it back in October, I think, and never had a problem with it. Like extracted chips and dust and all kinds of stuff like flawlessly. Works great on the Capex. So I put everything in the back of my car, and before I go to Jennifer's house, because it's about a 2-hour drive, I stopped to get gas, and I'm just kind of waiting for the gas to pump. And I'm like, you know what? It's been a couple months since I've been using the CT15. Let me see how full the bag is.
I did
Ooh.
see this.
So
Was it brick?
oh no, way worse than that. I open up the trunk of my car, or the hatch of my car. It's a BP gas station. People are driving all around me, right? All kinds of people everywhere. And I open up the CT15. Guess what's inside the insides of the CT15 Sedge?
I don't know.
My nicely folded up bag,
Oh, it
Still
wasn't
folded
hooked up.
still folded up from the factory, my manual, the little elastic cord for the garage door. And I want
You
to say that
never
there's
hooked
something
up
else in
the
there.
bag.
Obviously they're all buried in wood chips, right? So I'm like, son of a bitch, man.
Oh,
So I
man.
pull the HEPA filter out. There is a solid, it looked like I had a piece of bread in there. Like it was just a solid brick across the HEPA filter. I'm like, oh my God. But the thing is, and goes back to what we were talking about on a couple episodes ago, Jason, I had no idea that was an issue. There was no loss like the filter was completely packed. There was no loss of suction. There were no weird sounds. It didn't sound like it was struggling. So for those of you that want to know, Festool vacs completely work without bags. So if you're worried about saving a couple bucks, it works,
And now your HEPA
Unbelievable.
filter's damaged.
Yeah, I know. So I already ordered a new one. But I was like, oh my God, I'm such a
So glad we have experts on this podcast.
I didn't even think about it, like to open it up and put the bag in. I was just so excited to get my new vacuum, and I was like, oh, I can't wait to use it now.
Well, let me ask you this: when you buy a new domino, do you just try to use the tool without opening the sustainer?
It's not working.
Why is this track saw so square shaped? Where do I plug the cord in?
What's wrong with these oil cans?
I totally forgot about that. We talked about that whole incident on my Patreon group call. Somebody brought it
Oh,
up.
thanks.
Yeah.
Hey, did you see how stupid Ben was yesterday? God, what
Yeah.
an idiot.
I just said, did you guys see Ben in his normal state yesterday?
There's just too much time from the time I purchased the vacuum to the time I got home to use it. There's just too much of a time gap. I
Right.
didn't even think about.
Yeah, sure. No, hold on. Before you give your second one,
Okay.
just answer me this. Was the CT15 the first Festool dust extractor that you bought?
No.
That makes it even worse.
Okay. I bought the CT26 4 years ago. So it's been a long time since I bought one.
Oh, and you haven't changed the bag in 4 years?
Oh, I change it once a year. I use it with the Cyclone. I don't need to.
Can I can I just add to that variable suction on the dust extractor?
Sure.
The reason is one of the reasons you get less swirl marks is because, and I tell everybody this, and I think it's a great feature. At one time, Festool was the only one that had that on there. Now a lot of people have it, but what it does is it breaks the surface tension on the paper. It actually floats the sander, because if you have too much suction, it pulls down and it causes a lot of friction. You also get a lot of wobbling in any sander. So variable suction on a dust extractor makes a lot of sanders better, because it does do that. And I've seen footage and testing on that, and it does work. And when somebody
says
says
paper out faster.
Well, I tell everybody, you want to save money and you want to save time when you're sanding, hook up a dust extractor. Because what do you want to sand? Dust, or do you want to sand what you're trying to sand? Product. Okay.
The actual
and
material.
You'll glaze that paper less.
Oh yeah.
So it makes too much sense. But for years and years and years, and to this day, I see people, you walk in a shop and they're not using a dust extractor. I go, oh my God.
Yeah.
But
That's
mine
just
came
stinking
with a
thinking.
little bag like this long.
Oh,
Why
no,
would I?
It's a filter. It's a filter bag. It's a HEPA filter bag.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ben.
All right. My next one is using an overlapping pattern. Even whenever you're trying to finish. So especially if you're trying to flatten something, if you're trying to flatten the raw wood, or if you're trying to flatten out your the finish that you just applied, or if you're in between coats or whatever. And so I like to do overlapping patterns horizontally and then vertically as well. I do that with every single pass, or with every grit. I'll do that. And so if you can picture a rectangle in your head and it's oriented horizontally, like if you're about to sand a tabletop, you put the sander at the bottom left corner, you run it all the way to the right edge, you move it up half the diameter of your sander, and then you go back to the left and you go up half the sander, and you go, or the disc, and so you overlap all the way up horizontally, and then wherever you stop at the whatever corner you're at, then you start going vertically, and you do the same thing. You move from top to bottom, move it to the left or right, half the diameter of the disc, and you do that. And that is because really when you're sanding, especially raw materials, you want to try to get it as flat as possible, because that's going to help a lot of things. It's going to help the curing process for whatever kind of finish you're using, especially if you're using a top coat. Maybe not so much with a penetrator, but especially with a top coat, and you're doing some kind of a gloss, semi-gloss, where there's going to be a lot of light refracted off of that surface. The flatter that surface is, the better that finish is going to look. But if you have a very wobbly surface, if it's very undulated, if you try to focus the sander in one spot too much, you're going to see that. And so let's say that, so even with overlapping patterns, let's say that there's one spot on this table that is either low or high, or maybe it's got some kind of a burnish mark on it, or some kind of a mark on it. Even if that little deficiency or discrepancy is in one little spot, you still overlap the entire surface, because you want the entire thing to be uniformly flat. But if you do these overlapping patterns and you see, oh, there's like a little pencil mark here or whatever, and you just kind of bury that sander into that spot, you're removing that particular spot. So you're gonna, especially if you're pressing down on it, you're gonna ruin the Velcro pad underneath. You're gonna you could potentially, especially if you're on an edge, you could deform the actual pad itself, and so now you're creating even more uneven patterns whenever you're sanding. So again, do an overlapping on everything, even if you have to do a lot of overlapping passes just to get this one particular area, isolated spot, removed or whatever. Always overlap, and do the same thing between your coats, because you want to flatten everything out. Yeah, Sedge.
Can I add one thing? I do
this
that.
is it. You're not going to get any more after this.
No, I do exactly what you do. I do, and then I met a gentleman who did a lot of solid surface, and I sanded a solid surface countertop. Okay. And we raked a light across it.
Mm-hmm.
And he pointed out what I did. And he goes, you were overlapping perfect, to and fro, back and forth. He goes, add this to your mix. And I do, after I go back and forth, like you do, to and
Mm-hmm.
fro, which I did my whole life.
Yeah.
Okay. I do 6 to 8 inch circles
Mm-hmm.
overlapping. Okay. And it removes what they call cross hatching.
Yeah.
And I do it even on bare wood now. So, and maybe it's overkill, but I was really impressed when you said go back and forth, to and fro, and don't bear down on those pencil marks,
Mm-hmm.
because everybody wants to. And then you get that. You could see it when you rake that light. That is so important.
And are you going to talk about weights, Sedge, the weight of the sander?
Well, not really.
I think we can toss it in with this part of the conversation.
Okay, so I will add something else that's wicked important. Is choosing the right pad for your paper. If we want to talk about sanding pattern, because say let's go back to what you were talking about, a tabletop, okay, and you want to flatten it. And people used to say all the time, how the hell did you get that so daggone flat? What do you get, a time saver out back? And I go, no, I choose the hard pad.
Yeah.
And I go, what do you mean? Because a regular pad will follow those uneven spots back and forth, but a hard pad will go across that and not dip into those undulations. So I always, when I'm flattening, I'll use a hard pad with the right paper in the lower grit, and cross hatch and do 6 to 8 inch circles. Now, once again, remember when I talked about earlier about, we'll talk about weight on there. Okay. I don't like to take all my life and sand. I hate sanding.
Yeah.
Okay. I go to the lowest grit and I let the weight of the machine. If I have to put too much weight on there, just normal hand weight, okay, then I need to lower the grit.
Yeah.
Because I'm overworking.
And you have the chance, especially if you're using a hard pad, you'll have the tendency to create valleys if you're pressing down too hard. So that's why, the weight of the sander and the paper should be the workforce whenever it comes to sanding. And Sedge, you were talking about doing 6 8 inch circles. If I feel that the panels are still kind of wavy, or I have some of that crosshatch pattern, I'll do it diagonally as well.
Yes.
I'll do 45 from one corner, and then I'll flip and I'll do diagonal the other, and that gets rid of those crosshatch patterns.
Yeah, and I know guys who do that also, and it's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you don't want to end up raking a light and you get a crosshatch in there.
Yeah, and especially, and I mentioned at the very beginning, that tip is that you've got to think that light is going to refract off of this table, and that refraction of light, that's when you're going to tell that there's going to be deficiencies in the top. You can, raking lights certainly help, but when you get light that is being refracted off of a smooth surface, the last thing you want to do is to look at it and see like these little wavy patterns in it. Because that surface is uneven. So, it goes back to our conversation about finish work. 80% of finish work is prep work. And
the paint and the finish are a chemical. It's not that. It's your prep. Yeah. It's how you prep for your finish. Absolutely.
And I do this. I do that religiously. I over pattern. I do my cross patterns religiously. I do that with every single thing that I finish. Jason, you got anything to add to that?
No.
Wow. All right, Sedge. What's your next tip, Sedge?
Okay. What the number one call in, or the number one thing that people want to eliminate when sanding is what? Swirl marks. We've already talked about a variable section. Here's one that I thought everybody knew, but they don't. And this is the cause of a swirl mark. Wipe your material down in between grits. So say you're sanding it, let's just say you're at 80 grit. Okay. You pull the paper off, you switch to 120. Do you know what's still on that board? Are grits of 80 that have broken away, fricated off of the paper. They're still on there. You should take a brush it off. I usually have an old t-shirt, white t-shirt, and I wipe it off. I know people, but I don't want that air hose. I don't want that stuff blowing around in my shop. So I brush it off. I just, okay. And as simple as that is, I wipe and it's the easiest thing to do.
Do you use an impregnated sock when you do that, Sedge? When you wipe it?
Stop it. Stop it. You guys have no idea. I got socks all around my shop and I got oil.
Oh my God.
To wipe. It's oil, then camellia oil usually.
You know how long it took me to impregnate these socks?
Oh my God. Whatever.
I told Big
cool. So those are the tips I have for sanding.
That's all of them?
I could go on and on and on and on.
I've got one more.
Okay. Mine was kind of already covered by Ben. He alluded to it, but that is keep your sander flat. Don't tip your sander up. And I bring that up because early on I did this all the time.
Mm-hmm.
All the time, especially when I still have to fight to do it. When I run into that situation, I'm like, oh geez, let me just tip this thing. And I'm like, no, if I do it, it's gonna ruin the finish. It's gonna ruin the top. It's gonna create a valley. But the common mistake that people make early on is I have an uneven surface right here. Really, really good example of that is when you're joining boards together for like a tabletop.
Mm-hmm.
And one section of that tabletop, one board is just a little bit higher, and you're sitting there, you're trying to sand it back and forth. And a lot of this leads to, like, you didn't start with a low enough grit to flatten it out in the first place, but you're stuck at like 150 and you're sitting there and you're like, it's just not working. And the immediate reaction is to make metric great again, like Sedge's shirt says. The immediate reaction is to tilt that sander and utilize the edge of the pad. And obviously now you're focusing all of that on that one tiny spot, and it will quickly remove the material, but it will leave a divot in a valley. When you run your hand over the top of things, you can feel them like they are punching you in the face. Like, that's how evident it is. Somebody just favorited my shop on Etsy. We just talked about that.
And Mike just ordered a t-shirt or ordered something from the store.
Nice. So don't do that, right? Do not do that, because you will notice it in the end. And then to try to fix that spot, that's a whole bunch more sanding, because now you got to take everything down around it. So keep it flat. If you run into those experiences, always wipe. Instead of just talking about wipe the material off your surface, but before you move to the next grit, and this is especially important in the early grits to avoid having to do this, feel your material. Feel your material and identify those spots early on. That way you can get rid of it early on with a much lower grit than identifying it later on. Because again, the common practice with most people, especially in the beginning, is to do exactly like Sedge said. 80, rip it off. 120, sand, rip it off. 150, sand, rip it off. 180, sand. And then they get to the end and they start to rub their hand over it. And they're like, oh man. Well, then what do you got to do? You can either sit there with 180 and try to fix everything, or you got to go all the way back to the beginning and start over. So that would be my other recommendation.
So my last one is, and I think
Hold
this
on,
is
because
probably...
Because you're talking.
Is that my White Claw?
It is your White Claw. I'm dying right now to have some sort of alcohol in my system, because listening to your voice is like listening to nails on a chalkboard. Please go ahead.
Oh my God.
Here we go. Slam it down. You got to shotgun it, boy.
Bottoms up with the pinky out.
And now Jason shares his thoughts on the raspberry tea from White Claw.
Sucks. Anyways, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I smell I taste the rose petals, and I can feel the soil grit in my teeth.
Yeah.
You'll give it a little gurgle.
Yeah, I will.
Oh my god!
Little swish. All right. My last tip before we get really interrupted by our sponsor is, and I think this is probably the most important aspect to realize, especially when it comes to sanding and finishing work. And this is to kind of go off of what Sedge had said in one of his videos quite a while back, where you have to think of the paper as the tool. Mm-hmm. The paper or the cloth, depending on what you use, is the device or the tool that is going to be removing the material. And so you need to be thinking about getting the highest quality paper before you think about getting the highest quality sander, because you can take the best sander in the entire world, but if you throw on some Gator oxide on it, it's going to be worthless. The sander itself is completely worthless because the paper is not going to be aggressive enough, or it's not going to last long enough to do what you want it to do. I have the ETS EC, which I love it. It is such a comfortable sander. There's virtually no vibration whenever you use it. Like, my hands don't hurt even after using it all day long. But if I didn't have good paper, that really wouldn't matter anymore. So if you're at a point now to where, you're thinking about upgrading your sanders, or you're, just now getting into this and you haven't bought a sander yet, the sander itself doesn't really matter for the quality of the product. Invest heavily in good paper. And then once you have a good paper and you've kind of hit the limitations of what that sander is, especially when it comes to like comfort or use or disc size, stuff like that, then you can start thinking about, okay, maybe I want a bigger sander. Maybe I want a Rotex now. Maybe I want to have a sander dedicated just for finishing. Maybe I want to have a sander dedicated just for edging. All these other different kind of purposes. But do not cheap yourself out on paper or cloth discs. That's probably the one thing that anytime I see something sanding related and, somebody sends me a message, or I see it in Facebook where they're talking about how, I put this clear coat on and this, surface is so jacked up, or this stain, there's pigtails everywhere. And I'm like, they're talking about this sander, that sander. Nobody's talking about paper. Just like, you went to the big box store and you bought some crappy, sandpaper that doesn't last very long, and these are the results you get. And and they don't know any better, but for the most part. But invest in high quality papers.
I do have one more thing that I want to mention. Just use Rubio monocoat. None of this stuff matters. Hides all of it. Makes it really dull. You can't see nothing.
My
God. I'm just kidding.
Everything's a trade-off.
Yeah. You know what time it is. Hans. Where's Hans?
Hang on. I gotta be again.
Is he in the sausage kitchen?
Sausage kitchen?
Well, hi guys. Is it time for our segment?
It is.
Hello, Hans.
Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know about you, but it's time to see what kind of hatred the internet has thrown our way. So it's time for the favorite segments. Get bent.
This might be my favorite thing that I look forward to all week is listening to Hans introduce Get Bent.
I have a question for Hans.
Yes, Mr. Sedgley.
How's your sausage?
Oh, the bratwurst is cooking great in the pan right now. I've cooked about 15 links so far, and they are quite delicious. The flavor just explodes in your mouth like a panzer, just blows away.
Like a panzer. Oh man.
Oh, Hans.
One of these days, Ben, you have got to do an entire episode as Hans. Like a panzer.
Maybe it can be a bonus episode for patrons.
Yeah. All right. Do either one of you guys have one tonight?
No,
I don't.
I had a week of just pure positive comments. They were actually really good. So I don't have any negative ones.
I think I have one.
Now we'll see next week when I release my first video after a year. So that may change.
I have one for sure. But there's another one that somebody like purposely put #GetBent. So clearly they listen to the podcast. But this one, I'm not going to read the entire thing because it's pretty long, but it was on my woodpeckers tools video. I just love the way that this person started it off. Okay, you ready? Here we go. I am amazed how all of these YouTube woodworkers seem to have the entire lineup of woodpecker tools. Got to be thousands of dollars hanging on the pegboards. I would think hard about which 3 items I would spend that kind of money on. What?
What?
Oh, do you want me to read the whole thing? Because it gets better.
Yeah.
On another note, this company has issues. I cannot order products, or even if I do order something, the place order button does not work. I tried several times. Hold on. They did not plan well, and nothing is available. Even King Peckerwood, whoops, himself is making excuses in the product videos. You know, the big old guy with the heavy Southern accent.
Oh,
how did that happen? Seems like all the other companies can get their tools out the door. With all that profit on the overpriced tools, you think that they would have had stocked up on materials and stayed ahead for such times. I'm just disappointed. Awesome tools, maybe. Awesome management, not so much.
Yeah, because we all knew COVID was coming. What a bone.
So, well, it is very clear that the entire purpose of his comment in the video was to target his disdain because he can't get a woodpecker tool. Literally, that's the entire purpose of his comment.
Ben, right now you're making assumptions that it's a he.
Yeah.
Well, I want to be gender neutral.
It is a she.
What's the name?
Wow.
What I think is funny is like, why are you talking to me about your disdain for a company
about woodpecker?
Yeah, and not to mention
rep.
I don't know what companies you're ordering tools from, but any company that I'm ordering tools from, it's not right out the door, and it hasn't been for quite some time.
No, definitely not. Months.
Yeah. So
she said Peckerwood.
Yeah, King Peckerwood.
King Peckerwood.
Hold on, I think I have one. Man, this
Jason, I'm really getting serious about. We need to start making like these response videos for these comments.
I'm 100% on board. It's funny that what our topic was tonight, because I just released that video last week on the 6 Sanders.
Yeah.
The five or whatever, which bombed. It's like a terrible video. But man, you'd be surprised how many comments I got of everybody talking about, well, you can put the 6-inch pad on the 5-inch sander, right? And I'm like, yeah, you can. You're not supposed to.
Yeah. It's okay. It's okay. It'll burn up the
motor
counterweight and the motor. It's okay.
And then they'll blame Festool because their tools are breaking and burning up and all this other stuff.
They'll blame King Peckerwood.
King Peckerwood.
That's probably the one thing that I don't like about the ETSEC 125 is that you can't put the really, really hard pad on it that you can get with the 150.
Hey, this is
it's like a green pad or a blue pad or something.
No,
like
blue.
I'm going to read this, and I'm going to read the name.
Green pad's the polishing pad.
Yeah,
I'm going to read this, and I'm going to read the name because this was the one I told you about that clearly listens to the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So I posted a reminder video the other day on my drawer video, or a picture on Instagram, just like, hey, if you're looking for a good way to do drawers, blah blah blah. Right? This person comments, I might watch it, and I was just like, no pressure. Whatever. Anyways, he watched it and he commented. This is Kevin Willingham, and it said, I said I might watch it. I watched it. I liked it. #GetBent.
That's good.
You got to do better than that, Kevin.
Yeah, come on, Kevin. You could have at least been a jerk.
What is this,
Come
amateur
on.
hour?
Yeah.
You throw a hashtag on a comment, you think it's going to get read on a podcast continuously? Think again.
Yeah.
No,
Look,
he just wants to
look,
hear
this is
Hans.
not the Disney Channel, okay? This is Green Sources podcast. We only want the true, unadulterated hatred from the internets on this podcast.
I love these.
None of this like, oh, you smell very funny, mister. None of these things.
That sounded more,
Kind of a little
Hindu.
Indian in there.
yeah, than it did German.
Yeah.
You know, I was thinking that perhaps sometimes I want to just change things up a bit. You know, maybe we will have some European or other continental customers that want to be a part and included into the podcast. And so I think next time we get a small cup or hat and we just put a bunch of countries in this and then we draw from there and I just do that country's accent.
No, let's stick to German.
Yeah, because I love the Sausage King.
Yeah.
You guys are no fun, you know.
Yeah.
I tried to bring something exciting into this podcast, but no, it's all just German this, German that. Bring out your bratwurst.
Yeah.
You guys are not fun for me anymore. You don't excite me in this relationship anymore.
Oh my God.
I love that you say internets and anymores. So accurate. I let Nicole listen to the clip the other day.
What'd she say?
She just shook her head and smiled.
Dumb American.
Yeah. Stupid Americans. Anyway, are we gonna do a shout out?
Oh, for show. This
An
is a normal
sure.
podcast episode. This be a normal one.
Who?
And the next one's a patron one, isn't it? Or is it Sedges?
Nope,
I
it's
just
a
did
patron.
one.
Okay, I got to reach out.
Yeah, it's an individual patron.
Yep.
Did I have?
I'm ready to go if you guys aren't.
I'm ready to go.
Yeah, go ahead because I'm gonna do one that's kind of funny just to give it
All right.
a little jab at someone.
I kind of want to say that maybe we already did this one in like one of the very early episodes. I think we did. But his content's been popping up a lot on my feed. And I just kind of enjoy watching him being goofy and stuff. Ronnie Fulton from Fulton Fine Woodworks. He's always pushing content and always like sharing tips and stuff. But he's also in the Facebook groups answering people's questions, not just about Festool, but just woodworking in general. So just someone that is just giving back to the community, whether that's through entertainment, inspiring, or educating. So my shout out this week is for Ronnie Fulton. Go check him out if you haven't
Nice.
already.
I talked to him a long time last night.
He's a really good guy.
I think
enjoy
I
him.
think we did call him out.
Yeah, very, very, very beginning. I think
Yeah.
you did, Sedge. Early
Yeah,
episodes.
him and
Cam.
Cam.
And Cam. Okay, I'm up.
Yep.
Sure.
This guy is unbelievable trim carpenter and teacher, and he does some rough carpentry. His name is, or it's
Jason Bennett.
No, it's on his Instagram tag is at carpentry _by Mar, BYMAR.
Oh, I think I know this.
Okay, he's part of at Miter Masters, but this guy is always teaching on how to make cuts on miter saws, but also how to do layout, all kinds of quick carpentry, and he's got a hell of a following on Instagram. He's I watch every single one of his posts, and he's fantastic. So carpentry _by Ma.
It's a cool one.
It's a real good one. And Mida Masters is good. He's a contributor to that too.
What you got, Jason?
Oh, all right. So I said I was gonna take a little jab at somebody. I'm gonna do it for one of our winners of the Bessie giveaway for the month of January. Mr. Ed Mancini of Mancini Woodworking on Instagram. So the other day, he writes me a message. Pretty sure he was crying at the time. And it was like, hey, just out of curiosity, have you guys ever considered shouting out people that have smaller accounts? Because it just seems like everybody you guys shout out has big accounts.
We do, but not if they're tankers.
Exactly. Ed, the entire reason you have not made it up to this point is because you were a dirty, nasty tanker.
Nasty, gross tanker.
You probably wear those knee-high boots. And
he's probably wearing coveralls right now.
He probably is. He's probably lathering himself up with whatever that grease that they use on the tracks and stuff are.
And he has a Sabo training round that he's using for a doorstop.
Yeah, and shot glasses.
Yeah.
Tankers. I'm just kidding. Ed, he's a great dude. He's gonna. Oh man, I can't wait to get a message from him after he listens to this episode.
He's a good dude, man.
Yeah, he's great. Even though he's a tanker, tankers are better than Marines. Let's be fair.
They're higher up on the pecking order.
Yeah,
not much higher.
Yeah, not much higher. They are better than Cab Scouts. I will give them that. No, I'm just kidding, Ed. In all seriousness, Ed is he's getting ready to retire from the Army, and he just got a CNC machine, and him and his wife do all kinds of cool stuff, and they're selling things on Etsy, and he's just really trying to get all into this. So, great guy. Cool, yeah, very eager to learn for sure. So there you go, Ed. I'll send you the bill for the $500 you owe me for the shout out on this amazing podcast.
You're welcome.
Ed Mancini. Leave a get bent comment. That's going to do it.
That is going to do it.
That's it.
That's the end. That's the end.
That's the end of this one. What was this? 20?
No, I mean, that's the end of the podcast. Were we going to let everybody know that we're done now?
We're disbanding. I just created the website last night, but we're disbanding.
Yep. Sorry, guys. We just wanted to leave it open enough for Mike to buy one shirt, and then we're going to close it all down. So now we figured we wouldn't wait like Wood Talk did until they had 400 and something episodes to quit. We're just going to quit now.
Did they really quit?
Yeah, they quit for a while, and then they came back.
Who?
Wood Talk.
Who was on that?
I don't know. 3 weirdos.
Alrighty, Jason.
Vince
Woodworking followers. Sedgley.
Sedgetool.com on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Sedgetool. Follow us. Oh, and Festool Sedge, Festool Live, Festool Shop Talk.
And Grinder at Sedge's Tool.
And I've been doing really good on Sedge the Tool on Tinder.
A lot of swiping rights on Sedge's profile. I'm Ben Marshall. You can find me on Instagram and YouTube at Ben Marshall Designs. You can also find me on my website, which again still isn't up yet, Marshall Design Works, and also on Etsy, Marshall Design Works. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to listen to us. We hope that we entertained you, we educated you, inspired you in some way or fashion. And you can also find Hans. He has his own website now. It's called Hans's Bratwurst. .com. So actually it's .de. That's the proper German website.
The Sausage King.
The Bratwurst King. Thanks everybody.
Hans
later.
We'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Bye-bye. Cheers. Hey, this is Ben, co-host and editor of the Green Suiters podcast. This episode is over, but if you want to hear more topics like this and you want to be a part of our conversation, head over to patreon.com/Green Suiters podcast for early access to each show. If you're listening to this on free feeds, be sure to leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.